Have you ever heard of a case where every clue points in a different direction, where a man dies in a closed garage, with a running truck, a loaded rifle on the floor, and blood that doesn't even belong to him? This is the mysterious and still unresolved death of Kenneth Dean Engie, a 27-year-old repairman from Edmore, North Dakota, a death that remains unexplained more than 3 decades later. Welcome to Haunting Justice, where shadows hide secrets, and every unsolved crime whispers for truth. Step into the darkness, because justice never sleeps. On the afternoon of October 4th, 1988, Kenneth's uncle, Richard Nygard, stopped by his nephew's home. When he opened the garage door, what he found was horrifying. Kenneth was lying motionless on the concrete floor. The truck was inside the garage. The key was in the ignition, but turned off. And just a few feet away, strangely, lay a fully loaded .22 caliber rifle. The official cause of death: carbon monoxide poisoning. Police initially suspected suicide. After all, a running vehicle inside a closed garage is a known method, but the more investigators looked, the less sense it made. To understand this mystery, we have to go back to the night before Kenneth's death. October 3rd, 1988. Kenneth spent the evening at a local bar with a man named Curtis Heck. The two were friends, fellow auto repairmen, but also competitors. That night, everything changed. As the night wore on, Kenneth and Curtis found themselves in a heated argument over the barmaid. Curtis had been seeing her, and Kenneth made a bold move. He asked her to go home with him, in front of Curtis. The barmaid declined Kenneth's offer and chose Curtis, but by then, the damage was done. The argument turned into a physical fight. The two drunken men wrestled on the bar floor until Curtis managed to pin Kenneth down. According to Curtis, he agreed to let him go, only if Kenneth left immediately. Kenneth left, but not quietly. On his way out, he backed his truck into Curtis's vehicle before speeding off into the night. An hour later, Curtis and the barmaid left the bar. Still fuming about his damaged truck, Curtis admitted he decided to drive over to Kenneth's trailer. He left the barmaid waiting in his vehicle, and then, according to his own statement, he began kicking and denting Kenneth's truck, which was parked outside. That's when he heard it. Groaning noises coming from the garage. Expecting another fight, Curtis opened the back door. Inside, he said, he found Kenneth curled up on the floor, groaning. But instead of helping him, Curtis yelled at Kenneth about the damage to his truck, then turned and left. At the time, he claims he thought Kenneth was just drunk or sick. Those words make Curtis the last known person to see Kenneth alive. The next day, Kenneth was dead, but the scene inside the garage raised more questions than answers. The rifle, Kenneth's .22 rifle, fully loaded, was lying on the floor just 6 feet from his body, but it hadn't been fired. If Kenneth intended suicide, why leave the rifle there? The truck's fuel tank was completely full. The ignition was switched off, not running, when he was found. If he had turned it off himself, why collapse just a step away from the door? The blood, perhaps the strangest discovery. A small pool of blood on the garage floor. But when tested, it wasn't Kenneth. Whose blood was it? To this day, no one knows. 3 main theories emerged in the case of Kenneth Engie. Investigators first considered that Kenneth tried to kill himself with the truck. Maybe he had second thoughts, turned off the engine, but collapsed before escaping. But this doesn't explain the rifle or the unidentified blood. And Curtis later claimed he smelled no fumes when he entered the garage that night. This is now the official explanation. Kenneth, drunk and upset from the fight, may have parked in the garage with the engine running, perhaps waiting for Curtis. He might have turned it off, but the fumes had already built up. He stumbled out of the truck and collapsed before making it outside. But still, the timing, coming just hours after a violent confrontation, seems more than just coincidence. Kenneth's family doesn't believe in accidents or suicide. They're convinced Kenneth was murdered. Their suspicion focuses directly on Curtis Heck. They believe Curtis might have restarted the fight, knocked Kenneth out, and left the truck running until Kenneth was overcome by carbon monoxide. Another variation suggests Curtis found Kenneth already unconscious, but chose not to help, leaving him to die. Some even speculate Curtis may have intentionally turned the truck on, knowing the deadly result, then returned later to switch it off, removing evidence. And remember, there was the blood on the floor. If it belonged to Curtis, that could rewrite the entire case. The case remains unsolved, officially listed as undetermined. Curtis himself has denied involvement, even appearing on the TV series Unsolved Mysteries to say he wants the case solved so he can move on. But Kenneth's family has never accepted the accident theory. They are convinced that Kenneth did not die by his own hand, and that Curtis knows more than he admits. The most haunting detail remains the blood. It didn't match Kenneth. So, who bled in that garage? On the night of October 3rd, 1988, more than 3 decades later, the death of Kenneth Dean Engie is still surrounded by shadows. Was it suicide, a tragic accident, or a calculated act of murder disguised by circumstance? Until the questions about that blood, that rifle, and that final confrontation are answered, Kenneth's story remains one of the great unresolved mysteries of North Dakota. What do you think happened that night? Was Kenneth the victim of his own bad luck, or of someone else's rage? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like more stories of haunting, unsolved mysteries, don't forget to subscribe.